Yo guys, and welcome back. Welcome to another video. And yes, I am live, and I'll be talking about the tropics, and we've now got Major Hurricane Larry out in the Eastern Atlantic, and also we've got Invest 91L. So I'll show you where Invest 91L is meant to form. It's meant to form in the Gulf, but I don't think it's going to become particularly strong. One, because of, high wind shear. Wind shear is going to pick up in the Atlantic now, which should shear any systems that go in to the Atlantic right now. So feel free to comment. Feel free to comment. I've left a poll in my video, so you can see if Larry becomes a category 4 or not. It is a category 3 right now. Yeah, as you can see, major M. So next advisory, which would be about maybe 3 or 4 o'clock UK time, and then that will be about 11 AM Eastern Daylight Time if you live in live on the US East Coast or Florida. So anyway, here's Larry. So it's 115 miles per hour right now. It's moving at west-northwest at 16 miles per hour right now, and it's a very small. It's got a very small wind field, but that's meant to contract and turn bigger as it heads towards Bermuda. The track is going more west of Bermuda, which means it should put the US East Coast in threat. You could see some swells on the US East Coast, but I'll show you tropical tidbits. Wait, hang on, one sec, guys. Tropical tidbits. Right now. Yeah, I know. I should have got myself organised. I know, before the stream. My bad. But yeah, this is my first time streaming, so feel free to put anything you want, as long as it's not mean or anything. Comments, because if it's any mean comments, I'll report you to YouTube. So anyway, this is Hurricane Larry, and in the past few hours, when I woke up this morning, it was starting to form an eye. But when I looked like an hour ago, Larry's eye was trying to form, and now, as you can see, it's almost out, and it looks like a fairly biggish eye, and if it carries on clearing that eye out, it should start to rapidly intensify. I don't know if it is an annular hurricane at the minute, because normally you will have these convective bands just move off, and it was just the storm without the bands, which in that case I don't think it is rapidly intensifying. No, it is rapidly intensifying, but I don't know if it's an annular hurricane or not. But anyway, moving on. I'll show you satellite imagery of what do you call it, of Larry right now, and Larry is moving about west northwest. So as you can see on satellite imagery, the eye is starting to trying to come out on the latest frames. As you can see, it's in a very there's low dry air. There's more moisture around the storm. It's in a moist environment, which means low wind shear. It's in warm, well, marginal sea surface temperatures, about 20, maybe 26, 27, maybe touching 28. But it was moving west of the cone yesterday. As it was taking that westward track, it kept moving west because the GFS wanted it to come off the coast form and then just curve straight away past the Cabo Verde Islands and then towards, you know, everyone else. Yeah, feel free, you know, to put your comment. Feel free to put any comment in the chat. So anyway, as you can see, this is what I think that this has a similar structure to Grace. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think this has a similar structure to Grace, and this storm kind of looks good on satellite imagery. But if I go to Dvorak right now, Dvorak, no, actually, no, I'll show you water vapor first before Dvorak. Sorry, it does take a bit of to load. But anyway, as you can see on water vapor imagery, that the eye is starting to come out. It looks like a fairly biggish, a fairly big eye. I don't know how many miles wide it is. I think it's about 10 or I think no, it can't be 10. I think it's about 25 to 30 miles wide, and Ida's was about 20 miles wide. And actually, Ida made 2 landfalls. It made I'll show you. Wait. So it made landfall near. It made landfall in Louisiana, and then made another landfall near Louisiana, but on the other side. I'll show you. I don't know what the place is called in Louisiana, but yeah, it made landfall there. And then it moved, I think it moved westward, and then south a bit, and then moved like that, and then carry on moving towards the west, and then it should affect like Greenland and Iceland, and it should affect Scotland and maybe Sweden as well. But if you go to the Eastern Pacific, there's nothing active for the next 2 days, or for the next 48 hours, should I say. But if you press the 5-day, there's actual 2 systems that might form. I'm not saying they will, but this is at 5 AM Pacific Daylight Time. Disturbance number 2 is a 20% chance. Another area of low pressure is forecast to form in a couple of days, well to the south of the southern tip of Bay J, California Peninsula. Don't know where the Bay J, California Peninsula is. It's here. And then you got Baja, California, and then you got like the coastline of Mexico, which the HWRF wants 91L to come into the Atlantic into the Eastern Pacific, and then go to Olaf, which is the next named storm in the Pacific, and the next named storm in the Atlantic will be Mindy, then Nicholas, then Odette, then Rose, then Sam, then Teresa, then Victor, then Wanda. So we only got like 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 more named storms to go until we actually complete the auxiliary naming list. And I think that we could go not too far down that naming list. I'll show you why. One, because we're in a cool neutral. And cool neutral, which does favour the Atlantic, and it blocks the wind shear down a bit. It doesn't reduce the wind shear like what La Nina does, but El Nino is opposite. So like El Nino like produces more wind shear and average sea surface temperatures. That's why back in 2015 and maybe I think it was 20. I think we did have a brief of El Nino in late 2018, early 2019, but that just turned into a neutral. As you can see, here's the Enzo or Nino forecast. Nino 3 is we are at 0.277, but then Nino 3 wants it at 0.490, which is a cool neutral by England and American standards. 0.6 is La Nina, but for Australian standards, it's 0.7, maybe 0.8 for La Nina in Australian standards. So we could get a La Nina later on in the season, maybe towards September, maybe towards the end of September, early October. And well, the Nino 4 is saying that we're still in a warm bias neutral right now, which is still good for the Atlantic, but a warm bias neutral is the upper end of the neutral scale. So you got cool neutral, then you got neutral, then you got warm neutral, then you got El Nino and La Nina, and then you got a Modoki Nino, and then you got a Modoki La Nina. Like Modoki Nino, which we should have next year. You might probably thinking, well, it's probably a La Nina. Well, I will show. Right, where Hawaii is, the El Nino normally starts near South America, like near Peru and all the way up to like southern Chile and all that. You see the warm waters there, but what Modoki El Nino does, where the Mariana Islands are in the Western Pacific, it starts from there until about Hawaii, until about here. So it starts here, and it favours the Atlantic, like La Nina does, but it's the opposite. You know what I mean? Like a Modoki El Nino favours the Atlantic more. So you got like the sea surface temperatures are warm, and they are more conducive at this time of the year, as we are nearly at the peak of hurricane season, which is August the 20th to October the 15th is the climatological peak of the you know, hurricane season, and it starts to die down afterwards. So so yeah, so anyway, October the 15th is the feel free to say something in the chat. So anyway, I'll show you on windy.com the model. Right, I'll show you the models first. Forecast models. Right, skip. Let me just zoom out a bit. Yes, there we are. Region North Atlantic. Right, so now you've got Larry, which is now 966 millibars, which is a fairly big storm, and it's not as big as Ida was, and but it will affect Bermuda with hurricane force winds. So it may be hard to make out, but at 35 degrees north is where Bermuda is right now. So do watch out for that little system that does try to form in the Gulf of Mexico. The 0Z model did try and form it this morning, but as you can see, you got Larry now, which is 968 millibars, but then it gets 967, 963, then stays as a category 3, but then weakens, I think, due to an Iowa replacement cycle. And then obviously it intensifies again, then weakens, and then intensifies again. Then here's that system here near Louisiana. It will be a rainmaker, but this might hit the Florida Panhandle. It's 991 millibars, nearly a hurricane. And then obviously we'll just have another system after that, which should affect Texas. I think it's Galveston, Texas, I think, or Corpus Christi. I might be lying, but I don't know what that place is called in Texas. So if those two storms do form, we'll have Mindy, then Nicholas, then they will be on the tail between, will be right behind the Eastern Pacific, and then obviously Mindy does become a category 2, but then we go back into downtime in the Atlantic, where actually no, we've got another system coming off the coast of Africa, south of the Cape Verde Islands, and I don't know if it's going to be moving west, because the ridge is weak at this point, which means that the ridge is weak. The weaker it is, the more it's going to curve the storms towards the north. So like say, if this storm had a strong ridge now, it will go, wait, I don't want to sound in, it will go towards the Leeward Islands, and then travel into the Caribbean. Probably will hit Cuba or the Yucatan, and then the Gulf Coast. But if it's a little bit weaker, it will probably head towards those islands, but then move north a bit, but then possibly not make a landfall, but probably scrape the US East Coast and then turn extratropical. But if it's like that ridge now, which is a medium ridge, it should take the storm north of the Leeward Islands and then west of Bermuda. Now, when it gets west of Bermuda, it's uncertain. It might track more westward, hit South or North Carolina or Virginia, or it could just go east of Bermuda right now and not affect any landfall. Well, not affect any land except for Bermuda. It is meant to make landfall near Bermuda, but 2015, Larry was a weak and short-lived tropical storm. The only major hurricanes we had in 2015 was Danny and Joaquin, or whatever its name is, which did affect the Bahamas as a Category 4, nearly a Category 5. And you guys wanna, don't forget to like the stream, and yeah, don't forget to subscribe as well, you know, because I'm trying to get to 100 subscribers by December 2021. So that's like in October, November, December, 3 months time from now. I'm trying to hit it by Christmas Day or Boxing Day. So yeah. Anyway, let's get back into the so I'll pick up windy.com now. Might be streaming for another. I might be streaming for another 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. I don't know, but yeah. Obviously. Like the ECMWF, which is the European model, wants the storm to track near Bermuda, but latest of the runs, they're moving it more westward, near South Carolina, Georgia. No, not near Georgia. South Carolina, Virginia. And maybe even some parts of maybe New York, Washington DC. You guys don't want to get another hurricane because you already had tropical storm Henry make landfall. Obviously I missed it because all the storms were nighttime landfalls, so I couldn't see make landfall, but I think Grace was an early morning landfall. For me, it was about 5 AM PST time, and that was on August 15th, I think. I'm not mistaken, but anyway. So the EMWF, and I'll put it. So they want the system. So here is the system right now. So by 7 o'clock tonight, in the eye wall, it will get 29 knots of wind. But then, as you head further out into wind, so as you can see, it's tropical storm force winds now, 51 knots. Even though it's a major hurricane, And as you can see, as you get for as this does probably make landfall near Bermuda, you do experience some tropical storm force winds and maybe 60 knot winds if you're lucky. But as you head back in time, Sunday at 4 AM, which is tomorrow for me at 4 AM, BST time, and it's 64 knots of wind, which is now hurricane force winds. So, well, 74 miles an hour is hurricane force winds. And then by 3 o'clock tomorrow, it's meant to have 86 knots of winds in the wind field. Maybe touching 70 knots, I think. Maybe touching 89 knots. So that's a strong hurricane. Sunday at 10 o'clock, 85 knots, and then briefly gets up to 90 knots, and then possibly get in the northern quadrant, which is the strongest part of the storm. It gets to 91 knots in the system, which that's an eastward flow. I think it was an eastward flow anyway, not quite sure. So anyway, then Monday at 12 o'clock, 94 knot winds in the centre. Well, not in the centre, but near the southwest quadrant of the system. Yeah, southeast. I was right. The southeast quadrant of the system, and luckily Bermuda won't be on that side. They'll be on the dirty side of the system. So do expect some gusty winds and some swells. But this is big as it gets towards Bermuda anyway. It'll be like a massive system. I think the wind field will probably be about 100, maybe, no, not 100 miles, maybe like 500 miles wide, maybe 600 miles wide, I think. So that should affect the US East Coast with some swells, but not make landfall on the US East Coast. But Monday at about 6 o'clock UK time, it gets to 99 knots near the northeast quadrant. So as you can see, it's breathing right now. It's just moving into well more warm waters, and you should see Bermuda. Bermuda is somewhere up here, but as you can see, 99 knots in the northeast quadrant. Well, no, in the southeast quadrant now, 90 knots. And then obviously it weakens a bit due to an eyewall replacement cycle. But then 11 o'clock UK time, Monday, it gets to 90 knots. And then 7 PM, it gets to about 87, maybe touching 100 knots, I think. I'll have a look. I think this northern quadrant is 95 knots, which is 115 miles per hour. Yeah, 97 knots. And then Monday at 10 o'clock, it does weaken from its Category 3 peak But at this stage, I think 140 miles per hour will be perfect for the storm, as now 97 knots, which is possibly getting major hurricane status again. 95 knots, so I'd probably say it's a weak category 3. Yeah, 100 knots, which is 120 miles an hour. So that's on Tuesday at 6 a.m. And at 8 a.m. It's meant to weaken to 95 knots, which is still a category 3. But at, I think that's 5 o'clock. Yeah, that's 5 o'clock UK time. And in the southeast, in the south quadrant of the storm, it gets to 90 knots, 95 knots, 94. Then in the northern quadrant, it's about 85 knots, and just stays as 90 knots. So probably about 110 miles per hour. Maybe a bit weaker than that. 8 o'clock. This is at 7. This is Tuesday at 9 o'clock. To say sorry. 91 knots. 87 knots. But I'll leave it out until Tuesday, where the storm is near Bermuda, or possibly making landfall on Bermuda. Yeah, Hamilton 9th, about the 8th, 85 knot winds. That's at 7 o'clock, and yeah, it still stays at 80 knots, so it is weakening. But then on the western part of the on the western part of the storm, towards the south part, is where the higher cloud tops are and the strongest winds, as it moves into cooler sea surface temperatures a bit. But then yeah, still stays at 90 knots, but then weakens like to 77 knots, which is a category 1. On Thursday, the GFS is hinting it of being more north and a lot more weaker. That's by Thursday. But then the European model, once it's south of Bermuda by Thursday, we've had a look at the NAM-GEM model. Now the NAM model is so underrated because they wanted an 875 millibar hurricane out of Ida, and they were so underrated. So anyway, the ICON model, the ICON model hasn't caught up yet, but the ICON model wants the system to be a category 3, but no higher than 130, which is a category 4. And the GFS on Thursday wants this to stay weak, and to stay weak until yeah, just stays weak. And I think it turns extra tropical on Saturday the 11th, and then it moves towards like England, Ireland, and Greenland and all that. Then by the 12th, it's just there. So anyway, I'm gonna. How long have I been streaming for? Let's have a look. 35 minutes. So I'll probably stream for like another. Wait. Stream for another 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna end the stream. So. As you can see here, it's 36 knots at this point. So yeah. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna end the stream here. So, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And yeah, peace and have a great day. And stay safe from these things. So yeah, peace.